Welcome back to Body Led by Design. Today is the final episode of the Archetype series, and I've really been looking forward to this one. Over the past few weeks, we walked through the high-functioning undereater, the perfection-driven controller, the chronic restrictor, and today we're closing the series with two patterns that most women actually see as the problem: the escape seeker and the emotional absorber. But I want to start by saying something before we get into either of them, because if you've been listening to this series and you've been trying to figure out which one you are, I want you to stop doing that, because you're not one type. You're a little bit of all of them, or you have been at different points in your life, in different seasons, in different weeks. We're always ebbing and flowing. And you may notice that you ebb and flow as well with your cycle. Maybe during one week, you're high functioning. Another week, you're a perfectionist. Another week, you're an emotional escaper. We will move through these through different phases of our life and our cycle. So just know that we're not going to be one. But the two we're going to talk about today are really the end result of being type 1, type 2, and type 3, the high functioner, the restrictor, and the perfectionist. When we are one of those three types, we end up moving over into an emotional eater or an escape eater. And this is the end result of perfectionism, of trying harder, of pushing against our body, that then we seek out a way to escape that. We seek out comfort, and we end up being one of these eaters or these archetypes. And this is what feels like the glaring problem. This is what feels like this is the thing I need to fix. And I just want you to see that these two types are actually this symptom. They're not the root cause. The root cause is those first three types that we talked about the last 2 weeks. And also, I don't want you to label yourself with these types either. They aren't boxes for you to put yourself in. It's not another thing you have to identify as. They're just simply a mirror. They're there to help you see yourself clearly, not add yourself to another box or add another label to you. That's not helpful. And the other thing I want you to understand is, before we go any further, is that these patterns happen to you, not because something is wrong with you. They were taught to you by diet culture, by a world that told you that overworking is the path to self-worth, that if you just try harder, if you be better, if you do more, then you'll earn the right to feel good in your body. And these are nervous system patterns. You didn't wake up one day and decide to become this. You didn't wake up one day and say, I need to control or override my body. It wasn't a thought that was just generated by you. It was taught to you by the outside world. And then your body has learned to cope through this. And that's what we're talking about today. So let's talk about the escape seeker first, because I think this archetype carries the most quiet shame. And she's also the one that's least likely to call it what it is. When you are escaping, it can also be called rebelling. I've heard other coaches or other programs talk about the rebellious eater, and I don't particularly resonate with rebellion eating, and I also don't see it in my clients. But if it is going to come up this way, I want you to think about yourself. I tried to compare myself to when did the rebellion eating come in my life, or when did I notice myself escaping? And then I think back to when I was 16, because that was the height of my rebellion in my life. I was very much so a classic teenage girl. I just was a rebel. I was going to do whatever I want, whenever I wanted. I hated rules. I did not want to do what anyone else told me to do. And so I compare it to this. And what I can come up with is that by Friday evening, when I am in a rebellion state, or when I am seeking to escape, I am saying, I just want to feel good. I do not want anyone to tell me what to do for another second. So rewind what happens before we get to this point on a Friday night, or sometimes even a Thursday night. I can picture myself last Thursday. I was very tired. I wanted to do nothing. I wanted to not chop a single vegetable. I just wanted to put a frozen pizza in the oven. And For me, Fridays actually feel a lot better than Thursdays. I don't know why, but Thursdays are always the point for me where I'm like, I don't think I can do it today. I don't think I can rally. But what happens before this is that when you become an escape seeker or a rebellion eater, is that before this, you're doing way more than probably what you want to be doing, or you're doing less of what you love. You're really holding it together very tightly Monday through Thursday or Friday. Going to work, you're performing, you're managing, you're overworking, you're taking care of your kids, you're shuttling them everywhere, you're sending emails, you're scrolling social media. There's a lot going on inside of your mind and your body. And then somewhere towards the end of the week, this shifts and you get this feeling that says, I just want to feel good. I just want something that is mine. And food becomes that thing because food is so reliable. Food is fast, it's immediate. And honestly, it feels good. It gives us that dopamine that we're seeking. I want to feel good in something. And remember, food enjoyment, this is not a problem. You will never hear me tell you that food cannot be a form of joy. Food was actually created to be a form of joy. That's why it gives us dopamine. That's why it makes us feel good. That's why we seek it out when we're feeling bad. We are biologically designed to love food and to seek comfort in food. When we look at babies and they start crying, even if they're not hungry, we give them food and they stop crying. They have a biological reinforcement that when they eat, it softens whatever their little nervous systems are feeling. We're not that far off from infants. We have our prefrontal cortex, but we both, us and babies, still have this primal brain that is operating on this system. And when we're not using our prefrontal cortex, when we're overloaded from the week, we're going to move into the reptile brain, the brain that is very automatic. And that looks like seeking comfort and using food for comfort. But we want to remember that that's not the only reason to cope. And that's where we end up with issues. But also, I don't want you to take shame in that you feel better when you eat, because that's biologically driven. Then you're just asking to not have a human experience when you're wanting to not feel that way. But we do want to address when food becomes the only form of escape, the only relief valve that you can find, and the only place where you get to take a break. And I can say that I still sometimes live in this pattern, notice myself getting towards the end of the week or on the weekend and wanting to like eat foods that maybe I have been denying, and also like seeking rest sometimes in comfort foods. Like if I've been working really hard during the week, I will find that I want a lot of comfort food on the weekend because I'm seeking a way to find rest. And also thinking biologically, my body is looking for energy. If I'm overtired, my body is going to look for more energy, and comfort foods tend to be pretty heavy carb and fat loaded, which is going to be giving the signal to the body to, hey, there's a lot of energy in this food. And that's just a natural attraction to those kinds of foods too. But the problem isn't the food. The problem isn't the wanting to escape. The problem is what happened in the last 4 days that I never maybe gave myself time to rest. I never gave myself an evening off. I never walked away from my computer more than 30 minutes if I've had that kind of week. So then by Friday, it just feels like the restriction, the perfectionism, the overworking that I've been doing Monday through Thursday, it just breaks open. It's like I need to seek relief right away because I just want to feel good. And food is the fastest way that we have to feel really good. So going back to the rebellion way of looking at this, when I think about my 16-year-old self, I was always in the state of, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want. No more pressure from my mom, from my dad, from school, from teachers. I want none of it. You can't tell me what to do anymore. I'm going to do whatever I want. And that is exactly the same way I behave when there's a lot of pressure in my life, and when there's a lot of direction, and when there's micromanaging in my life, which doesn't happen often anymore since I run my own business. But sometimes I micromanage myself. And then I end up to be later on in the week, and I'm like, nobody can tell me what to do anymore. I just want to feel good. I just want to escape. And it is very much so how I behaved when I was 16. So ask yourself, if you had a rebellious stage in your life, what did you often do? And do you find yourself doing that now when you need a break, when you need some rest, when you need to give yourself something versus adding to your to-do list? And rebellion is normal. It's a biological response to chronic control. Your body is restoring autonomy. So remember, it is normal for teenagers to rebel because they're seeking out how to find their own autonomy in their life. And we will mirror that as well. And I have particularly noticed that as I get deeper into my phase, I'm a bit more of a teenager than I have been since I was 16 and 17 years old. But now I just feel a lot more confident in saying, you can't tell me what to do anymore. This is what I'm doing, and I love my decision. And just having a lot more confidence behind it. I do particularly enjoy that I have found a little bit more of my voice as I've moved more into my 40s than when I was maybe in my 20s and my 30s, and I was just so scared to speak. And so I will say, I think I've seen this on social media, and I'm like, I think it is true. Like, your 40s just start to become a better version of what you were as a teenager. But when we choose to escape in this kind of way, week after week, this is not a long-term solution to how we want to feel in our body, because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is more than half of the week. Even Friday, Saturday, Sunday is like 35% of the week or 40% of the week or something like that. That is a significant amount of time that you're spending escaping from your Monday through Thursday. And depending on the meal that you have, or depending on the weekend that you have, you come back, and it's very rare that you're super happy that you escaped for a meal or for several days. Because when you come back to the feeling of your body, to knowing what just happened, to understanding, oh, I just did it again, is that you come out feeling guilty. You come out feeling remorseful. And then what do? You go right back into the pattern that created the need to escape in the first place. More restriction, more perfectionism, more overworking, Monday through Thursday or Friday, all over again. I got to tighten it up. I was off track again. And what I want you to do is to not try to talk yourself out of escape. It's to talk yourself out of the perfectionism, the control, and the over restriction. So now let's move over from the escape to the emotional absorber. These two are also very similar. So like last week, we talked about the perfectionism and the chronic restrictor. They were cousins. They were very close. These two are cousins as well, because the escaper is also feeling a lot of emotion, but they might look a little bit different on how they choose to escape or how they choose to manage their emotions, and more of like how and when it happens. The escaper waits. The emotional absorber doesn't always wait. And she often is in the moment of saying like, I don't even know why I'm eating right now, or reflects back and says, I don't even know why I did that. And there can feel a lot of shame, because not knowing feels like evidence that something is wrong with you and that you should have been able to catch yourself. Like any reasonable person has control over their emotions. But what's often happening with this type of person, and I will say this isn't always everyone. I will say the emotional absorber isn't going to be, I think in all the archetypes I've talked about, everyone can see themselves in that. I will say not always the emotional absorber, or there's a lot of variation in the emotional absorber, because I know that some women feel emotions very intensely and very deeply, and it's like a full body experience. And some women simply don't. And neither is right or wrong. It's just how you are created. And I'll talk a little bit in a second about what one of the ways how to know if you are feeling emotions intensely, even though you're like, shouldn't you already know that? Sometimes no. Sometimes you just think, sometimes you're walking around and thinking something's wrong with you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but let's talk about the emotional absorber and what this actually looks like. Is that you have felt very much throughout your day a lot of discomfort emotions. We're rarely like, we will emotionally joyfully eat, but this isn't going to be in a way to escape. And it's not from like a self-loathing place. It's not from, I want to escape myself place. That's when we know that it's not in congruency for how you really want to live your life and how you want to have a relationship with your food. So There's much discomfort, a lot of like painful emotional discomfort, a lot of input, maybe other people's emotions that your body starts to disconnect from your mind to really protect you. And that's why you say in the moment, I don't even know why I'm eating. Or you say later on, I didn't even know why I was doing it. I was just doing it. And it's because your body is like purposely trying to disconnect from your mind to protect you. It's the nervous system saying, I don't feel safe right now. I'm going to turn this off. And so it does. And the communication isn't there like it is when you're like quote unquote online. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do with that level of emotional load. And emotions don't just disappear. Like we hope they just go away, right? When we push them away or when we try to ignore them, but they just stay there. They're just in the background. And that's not necessarily conscious of you. It's there, it's subconscious. And in that disconnected state, the drive to eat, to feel something different, to feel something manageable, to feel something that produces dopamine and energy in a moment of when our body is needing care will take over. And it's not taking over with salmon and broccoli, right? If it was, that would be great because we all could use some more salmon and broccoli. But we're grabbing foods that make us feel really good. So this will be processed foods, high sugar foods, the things that communicate to your body that it's okay to shut off for a moment and just feel good. And then you wake up in the morning, you come back online, and now you have guilt and remorse layered on top of everything that you were already carrying. You haven't necessarily resolved anything. You just added weight. You just added the weight of the food now to the emotional weight of your body. I want to talk about this for a second because there is something that most people don't connect. Absorbing other people's emotions throughout your day has a direct impact on how you feel and often how you choose to eat. Because your subconscious body does not have a good sense of time or place. In fact, it has relatively no sense. It thinks that everything is happening now. So when you absorb your child's dysregulation from this morning, the yelling, some chaos because they wouldn't put their shoes on, your body is still processing that at noon. It's still trying to metabolize that. And when you carry grief or sadness or the weight of hard conversations, your body has to metabolize those emotions. Just like it has to metabolize energy, it has to metabolize food. Emotions require metabolizing. So think about your body as a funnel. Every emotion you experience throughout the day goes into the top of that funnel. And when you give your body time to process through movement, through rest, through maybe some journaling or breath work or meditation, or just being still for a little bit to process things, that funnel, the emotions keep moving through. They are metabolized. But when we don't give the body any of that, that funnel clogs. And now you have grief from last week, sitting under stress from this morning, sitting under someone else's bad mood from this afternoon, and your body is just full. And instead of metabolizing it through other ways and modalities, we eat because eating changes the feeling. It doesn't resolve the emotion. Those are still there. Those are still going to wait for you. But it does give us a sensation, a good sensation to focus on for a short amount of time. And this is why when we don't metabolize our emotions, when we don't move them through, when we don't process them, this is why the body starts to feel very heavy. This is why you start to feel overwhelmed. This is why you start to feel very tired because the body is being weighed down by these things. We think about metabolizing food. We think about our metabolism in general, but we never actually give time and attention to metabolizing our emotions, to metabolizing our stress. That has to be done too. And so if you can make that connection as to, oh, that's maybe why I feel this way, even if everything else seems to be on point for you, but you're never giving any attention to your emotions, that could be the missing key, is that metabolizing of stress and emotions. And I also want to bring in something here around emotions specifically, because I find this part very helpful for women to understand. When I talked about just a minute ago, people who feel emotions very deeply and they're very like all over the place and it's kind of mucky. And then people who are like, yeah, I feel emotions and I understand them and then I move on. And it seems very simple and easy for some people and it feels very hard for other people. So in human design, there is a center called the solar plexus, and this governs how you experience and process emotion. If your solar plexus is defined, so if you are able to pull up your human design chart, and I apologize, I don't have my human design system set up on my website yet because there's a lot of things happening in my business and I can only do one thing at a time. But you can go on ChatGPT, you can go on Google, you can go anywhere and you can pull up a way to pull up your human design chart. And then you can even ask ChatGPT, what is my solar plexus, defined or is it undefined? So, and you can even message me on social media. I can totally help you with this. But if you have a solar plexus that is defined, you have a consistent, reliable relationship with your emotions. You feel them deeply, but you can name them and you can move through them. So I have a defined solar plexus. I'm very close to my emotions. And the way I describe this is that I sit here with my friend Joy. I sit here with my friend fear. I sit here with my friend anger. I sit here with my friend resentment. Like, I know them. I can touch them. I can feel them. I can name them. I also am not really very afraid of my emotions. I'm pretty willing to feel emotions. I wouldn't say that I've always been that way, but I do think that people with defined solar plexus can process and understand and be less afraid of those emotions than those who are undefined. So when you look at your chart, if you're undefined, your solar plexus will be completely open. It's not colored in. For you, emotions come in like a flood all at once. They're hard to name. They're hard to locate. They're hard to separate what's yours, what's somebody else's. And it can feel kind of out of control. I think about it like a soup of emotions. It's kind of mucky, or like a stew. And nobody wants to go into a pot of stew and pull out a carrot and say, here's the carrot. Right. And so for you, you don't necessarily want to go into your soup of emotions and pull out fear and name the fear because it's hot and it might burn you and it's kind of scary. Right. And so that's what that experience can feel like with somebody with an undefined solar plexus, is that you don't have consistent energy there and emotions are harder to name. So if you're somebody who's like, if somebody asks you, how are you feeling? And you're somebody who's like, I don't know. I just feel terrible. Why do I have to name this? That is why. And one thing that I've been sharing with my clients to help them feel better is that oftentimes somebody who has an undefined solar plexus really has this innate desire to want to know their emotions, to want to be able to name them. And the reason that they want to do this is to appease the other person who is asking how they feel. And we have created a language for emotions, but that doesn't mean that it's the right language. You can develop your own language for emotions, and that's completely okay. You don't have to appease those of us in the world that have named our emotions just to make us understand. The most important thing is that you understand your emotions, that you've named them, that you understand them, that you're close to them, that you're metabolizing them, letting that instead of letting them consume you. And I share this not because I think that you need to go deep into human design after this episode, but because I want you to understand that if emotion has always felt overwhelming to you or confusing to you or too much, there may be a real structural reason inside of your body for that. You're not too sensitive. You're not too emotional. Your system is working exactly as it was designed, and it's perfect. It's perfect for you. You just don't sometimes have all the tools to understand and to be able to work with it. And then we add in diet culture and it tells you that, hey, you're the problem, right? So we're trying to metabolize our emotions and you're like, I can't. And then diet culture is like, well, then, you're the problem. It's always you. The diet is fine. The plan is fine, but you're just not doing it right. And now you take all of that guilt and that shame and you add it to everything else sitting in that funnel inside of your body. And of course you feel heavy. And of course you feel tired and overwhelmed. It is really hard to take action from that place. And so of course that pattern, it repeats because you're like stuck in this loop of refilling that funnel over and over again, and you're not actually moving anything out of this clogged funnel. So now that we've talked about all 5 archetypes in this series, I want to zoom out for a second because there's a thread here that runs through every single one of them. It's not that you're the problem. It's not that you need to be stricter, that you need to have more discipline, or that you don't know enough. It's not that you don't want it badly enough. The common thread in this is diet culture. It's the way you've been taught to eat. It's the way we've been told to manage our bodies. And that the way we've been told over and over again is that our bodies are wrong. Our bodies are the thing that need to change, and that we are the manager of our bodies, and we better get it in check. And that there's always an outside answer, that if you just follow the right plan, eat the right way, just be better, then your body will cooperate. And we absorbed this from watching our mother's diet. I am an elder millennial. I was born in 1984. I lived very vividly through the 90s and watching my mother diet, watching conversations that I overheard with her friends or my aunts, and seeing the magazine covers, not only in the grocery aisle, but were sent directly to my house with my name on them. And now the internet and social media and every wellness account that tells you how to quote unquote fix your body as if it's a problem that needs to be solved. And now it runs like an interstate inside of us. It's automatic and it's a patterning that just exists. This is a neural pathway. And until we decide to look at it and change it, this neural pathway is going to keep running. No one is going to shut this interstate down until you decide to look at the interstate and start to think and believe different things. The way we've been taught to manage ourselves is through restriction, through perfectionism, through high functioning without rest, no breaks, don't ask what you actually need. This leads to inevitably escape, to emotional eating, to the patterns we've been talking about to the last 3 weeks. It all ties back to the same thing. And that's not giving yourself time to really understand your body, not giving your body what it actually needs, not what someone told you that you need, but being able to hear the language of your body when it's asking for something. So that means like clearing out the clogs inside of your body so you can hear it. The reason we can't hear our body is because it is stuffed full of information that's not helping you and stuffed full of hormones that are not helping you either. And being able to tend to the needs of your body instead of abandoning it, instead of telling it it's wrong, instead of continuing to override the language of the body. And that is the work. Not eating less, not being more disciplined, learning to actually listen and understand. And when a woman stops fighting her body and starts learning the language, something shifts. And it's not just about the food that you're eating, the consumption. You begin to understand your body in a completely new way, in a way that's not confusing, in a way that doesn't require you to continue to outsource your wellness, to follow another influencer, to seek more information. You now get to insource your power to yourself. And when you eat in the way you've always wanted to eat, and you begin to follow through with the way that you've always wanted to follow through, you get to have compassion in a way of understanding yourself and treating yourself with love. And with the kind of understanding that both lets you be the healthiest version of you and the version of you that gets to go out for dinner and actually enjoy it without guilt, without remorse, without feeling like you've fallen off a track and you need to start all over again. And inevitably, what happens is that if you want weight loss, it begins to respond naturally. It gets to be a beautiful side effect. There is a natural weight that your body wants to be at, a set point that your system is always trying to find. And when you stop fighting it, you actually find it. You stop arguing with a scale every morning. You stop letting a number determine how your day feels. It becomes intuitive. It becomes easy. It becomes yours. And you don't end the struggle by continuing to try harder against your body. You end it by finally stopping the fight and walking away. So if you've been listening to this series and you can see yourself in these patterns, maybe in one, maybe in a few, I want you to know that awareness in these last few podcasts is the first step. But awareness alone does not change the pattern. You can understand exactly why you do what you do and still not know how to move through it. And if that's where you are right now, it makes complete sense. of stopping to try to figure this out on your own. That's exactly why I created Fed Up. I named it that way because that's where so many of us are. We're fed up with diet culture. We're fed up with fighting our bodies. We're fed up with outsourcing ourselves to a wellness industry that is never going to have our best interest at heart. We're tired, fed up with outsourcing ourselves, our health, our weight, our energy, or our hormones to a system that will never actually care about you. So, Fed Up is a free live 3-day experience. I'm going to be teaching live every day, and we're going to break down the stress, hormone, weight cycle together and how it actually applies in your actual body, your actual life, your actual patterns. You're going to leave with a real explanation for why your body feels the way it does, tools you can use in that very same day and going forward, and clarity on your next steps. How do I actually apply this to my life in a way that makes sense for me? And this is for midlife women who have really tried everything. You feel stuck. You are ready for your last first step. This is not a weight loss program, though for many women, you will find your natural weight. And that is a natural, beautiful side effect of what happens when we create safety in the body. This is about stress. This is about hormones. This is about energy and feeling at home in your body again. So if you're ready to register, you can go to my website, melissaikwellness/fed-up, or head to the show notes and you will find the link in there. You can also head to Instagram and you can DM me Fed Up and I will send you the link right there. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this series and I hope to see you in the 3-day series. I forgot to tell you when it is. We start March 31st, which is a Tuesday, and then we will be together Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So March 31st, April 1st, and April 2nd. So make sure to sign up for that. I can't wait to see you in Fed Up. And also, I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you saw yourself in these archetypes. I hope it really brought things together for you and helped you understand yourself better. I can't wait to come back next week for another episode. Until then, you have a fantastic rest of your week. Bye-bye.